Apex, Las Vegas 100, Magny versus Prates. Full card predictions. This is Masked MMA here. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. This is a typology page, Mask of MMA, in case you want to check my prediction rate, my percentage, and anything else. If you've forgotten what I've picked in the past and you don't want to go through the videos, you can always check out my typology page. That will be Mask of MMA, not Masked MMA, Mask of MMA. And this will be my full card predictions. So here we go. It's mid, just like last week's, but this one doesn't have a crowd, so at least it has an excuse for being so mid, but let's get into it. Perfectly mid, as all Apex events should be. Let's see. We have Trayshawn Gore and Tranio Tricoli. Now, I'm actually surprised that Trayshawn Gore is a favorite here. And I'm actually surprised that he's only 42% picked here. See, because for me, I thought that Tricoli, for a week's notice against Share Bullet, making it to the third round, I thought that was alright. Because you got to take into consideration that he took that on short notice. And Share Bullet was this big prospect, massive prospect, very very loved by the fans. He had a very fan-friendly style, and he was a pretty huge favorite. And for him to make it to the third round, survive, and actually get the takedown almost, except Shara Bullet Magomedov cheated by grabbing the fence. People forget about that in that fight. Although he got the finish eventually in the third round, it was quite late, and he did prevent a takedown by holding the cage. Now, granted, Trayshawn Gore is coming off of a win. But, I mean, are we really going to say that Josh Fremd is a great win these days? I mean, he's pretty much getting beat up by everyone. So, I don't really rate that very highly. And then, I mean, these are schmucks on the regional scene for the most part from Antonio Tricoli. But he's 6'5". He is an athletic phenom. Granted, he wasn't able to show that in the Shara Bullet fight, but Shara Bullet's a prospect now. He's ranked number 14. I mean, I don't know if you'd call ranked number 14 a prospect at this point, but he's a contender. He is very proven, and he's beaten some other guys even faster than Tricoli, so honestly, quite impressive, you know? We gotta talk about the reach, the height. 6'5", 80-inch reach. 6 foot, 75-inch reach. He's got the attributes, and I think he'll be able to win by a decision, because even though he does look like he can KO some people, just looking at him, I mean, although I'm not basing it off of a picture, I've seen him fight Shara Bullet. I just think that if you go to his career, if you look back, lots more decisions recently. And that's, I mean, sure, submission, neck crank, right? But I think that Trayshawn Gore is durable enough. You look back, and Brian Battle took him to a decision. He finishes people lately, so I think that shows that aside from the overhand to Cody Brundage, he's durable enough. So I'm going to say a decision for Tricoli. And moving on, we have these names. Cortavios Ramios versus Gaston Bolanos. I'm hoping I'm saying this right. Now, we have most people picking Ramios. 5'4", 5'7", both bantamweights. And see, we have bantamweight US West. And then we have bantamweight worldwide here. So this tells us already what we need to know, that he's Ramios is not necessarily proven. He's not fought in the UFC. Now, granted, Gaston, he not got a lot of wins here, and he's coming off a loss, 32 but it is something we have to consider here. He's a regional guy, Romeos. And I mean, Ramon Tavares, KO, that's not a great look. I mean, he's not the most proven right now. Not a lot of fights in the UFC for him either. But I mean, more wins, arm bars, lots of arm bars. Seems to be his technique. I feel like even though he got a decision against a 12-6 guy, that's not great. I think it's tough. It's tough to say, but I think there's a good reason most people are picking him by submission. Now, again, more proven here, Gaston, but I mean, how much more is he really? How much more proven is he really? I mean, we see that he got KO'd. Sure, it was standing TKO. You know, oh wow, good job. You didn't get flatlined, but it's not a great look when you're 7-4. I mean, I'm surprised that they're keeping a 7-4 to be honest. But I mean, he has a win, but I mean, who is Aaron Phillips really? I mean, come on, are we gonna rate any of his wins? 7-5, come on. Uh, I'd go with a submission. He's a good underdog, but round two submission, Ramios, for sure. Claudia Sigula, Poland, nice. Huh. And then Melissa Mullins. Now, I picked Melissa Mullins against the French girl Nora Coronelle. I believe that's how you say that. And she kind of got decimated out there. Knees and head kicks. Like, that's kind of nasty for a women's MMA fighter to go out with knees and head kicks. You know? 33 years old, 25. I think this is a good underdog. I do. I think Claudia Silva is a good underdog. Because, I mean, this is a women's MMA fights. So at the end of the day, there's not a lot we can say about them. There's really not a whole lot that, especially when these women haven't really fought in the UFC much. I mean, the only the only fight of these two women in the UFC, I mean, there's two actually, but only a couple fights from Lisa Mullins. I mean, it's nice records that she's going up against for the most part. But I mean, just because the record's nice doesn't really mean much. I'm looking at who's been winning recently, and she's younger, and the reach is something that we don't really know much about. Height, I mean, that's pretty much same, irrelevant, I must say. But the age, I mean, Melissa Mullins, I mean, you're choosing to fight super late. I mean, I don't even know if she's in her prime anymore. 33 for a woman, not great. Only starting her UFC career. We have 6-9, 1-0, 5-2, 0-1, and 3-0. Like, not a lot of good records, but it adds up like to a similar, like 3-0 is pretty decent. 5-2, 6-9, and it was a TKO. It was like a cut, I believe, technical knockout. It's a similar career to Melissa Mullins, and although the Poland regional is not as good, the like talent might not be as good as from England, but I feel like she's gonna have the youth on her side. She's just gonna be a little more technical, and she might win a split decision, as do most women's MMA fighters, if we're being honest. Next, Cody Stamann. Wow, I mean, he really fell off. He was actually a decent prospect at one point. He was ranked going into the Merab Dvalishvili fight, I believe number 13. Now, I mean, what a fall from grace. You know? He's active, I must say, but fairly active. I mean, he kind of had a brief time off there, but yeah, I mean, 35. I can't pick him anymore. Blackshear, Damon Blackshear. He had a freaking twister, which is quite rare to see. I feel like he's quite well rounded. He's going to get the takedowns. He's probably not going to submit Stamen because he's a pretty good grappler in his own right. But he can keep things at range as well. I mean, this is a huge reach advantage here. 5'10". I mean, this is going to be similar to Cody Gibson against Chad in last week's card, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, Fred Basharat, Mario Bautista, and Montel Jackson, like, no shame. No shame in those losses. And then we go to Cody Stamen. Taylor Lapilus, not reached the rankings, though he's a good prospect. Douglas Silva de Andrade, as far as I'm aware, not have reached the rankings. And then Saidner Magomedov barely reached the rankings. I believe he's number 15, or at some point he was, but these are not quite as good. Montel Jackson is either currently or just outside, just shy of the rankings. And then Fred Basharat, still a good prospect. Mario Bautista, robbery against Aldo, but that's besides the point. He's a good top 10 fighter. Yeah, I'm going to go with the decision because I could see a submission, I could see a KO, but Stamen's durable. Moving on, we have Charles Radke, Matthew Semmelberger. I think the odds are justified here. Too many losses for Semmelsberger. This one's a pretty quick one here. Now, granted, he's younger, so, I mean, but then again, we look at, what's his name? Frick. Frick. Uh, we look at some other guys who are like Vicente Luque. Vicente Luque. Can I speak? I feel like I'm stumbling a bit here, but I'm trying to get these fighters. I'm trying to remember them. Vicente Luque. There we go. You look back at Vicente Luque's career, and he had a lot of fights in the UFC, lots of them, and he was only 32. And we see that Vicente Luque, I mean, he's 32 and he's not looking great now. He kind of just fell over himself against the Joaquin Buckley fight. It wasn't as bad as people say, let's be honest. I understand he has a brain injury and all that, brain leak or whatever, something like that. But I mean, Joaquin Buckley kind of forced him down to the ground. It wasn't as bad, like, he was putting the pressure on him. He was raining down punches. It wasn't just, oh, he's just laying there and accepting defeat or something. Like, he was getting punches rained down on him, but that's besides the point. Point is, when you're young and you're taking a lot of fights, and most especially a lot of losses, like, against Preston Parsons, he just wasn't able to push that hard. And Preston Parsons, we saw that he lost to Obon Elliott. That's the name. And then we have a KO against Uros Medic. Jeremiah Wells, I mean, I don't really think that he's that good. Split decision, fair enough. But Alex Morono, these guys are kind of schmucks. That's just what it is. I mean, Alex Morono, he lost against Daniel Rodriguez, both kind of fat, blobbery welterweights at this point. Yeah, just the competition aside from Eros Medic is not great. And then Jake Matthews, that's a decent one, but otherwise, yeah, not great. And then we see against for Charles Radke, like, I mean, Gilbert Urbina, man, these names, it's just hard for me sometimes. Gilbert Urbina, I mean, it's not a great name, but I mean, it's a KO. It was a KO in the first round, and we see that he has some decent power. Carlos Prates is not a bad name to lose to. So, all these other guys, sure, decision, submission, but these are decent records, like 6-0, submission, rear naked choke. Like, I think he's going to control him if he gets it to the ground, and I think he's going to hit him hard, where Matthew Semmelsberger won't be able to come back and put on any meaningful damage. So, yeah, I actually like this as a favorite. Quite a few decisions on this card as well, I feel. Dusko, Duskro, Dusko Turdovic, Tor, Todorovic. Man, I am butchering these names today. Oh man, hilarious. No, I actually think he's okay. I actually think he could win this, Dusko. But I mean, we have a 6-0 prospect here in Mansour Abdul Malik. 6-0. Momentum. We got to consider that, you know? Momentum is always a factor in these fights. 6'2", 80-inch reach. That's quite good for a 6'2". You know, some of these guys that are 6'4" in heavyweight and light heavyweight, we see they have like 79-inch reach. They have sometimes even 75-inch reach, 78-inch reach, 80-inch reach for middleweight. Pretty good. Ground and pound 6-1, like 1-0. Okay, that's not great, but I mean it's LFA, so it's decent. It's the momentum. Sure, he hasn't fought great caliber like Jordan Wright. I mean, it's like these guys aren't necessarily great either, but it's UFC. It's UFC caliber. So I mean, I could totally see uh, Todorovic getting this, but decision, Rodriguez, elbow, Chitty, Rodriguez. I mean, Leroy Duncan, knee injury. I mean, I think honestly, Dusko is a good underdog though. I don't know. I mean, we look at the age is definitely something, and the height and the reach. The height's not that much though. Uh, I mean, I'm gonna regret picking him if Dusko wins, but yeah, this feels kind of like it's just one of those where it's like everybody's picking Abdul. So if you're not picking, it's like whoever loses in this and you get that if you get the wrong pick here, you kind of feel stupid either way, I feel like. Because I feel like Dusko's a good underdog, but I just can't pick him coming off of a knee injury without the momentum and not fighting in something like a year and 7 months. A year and 7 months. A year and 7 months isn't great. And we see that, what is it, like, I mean, 2 months. 2 months ago, and he's turning around in 4 days. Yeah, man, I mean, clear pick for me here. Not clear, not clear, not clear. This. I don't know. I actually don't know, but for me, I gotta go with Abdul. That's what I mean. And moving swiftly on, we have Nicholas Dalby, Alesky Zalescu. Um, Nicholas Dalby, better competition. I mean, I'm gonna pick him all day. A pretty clear one to me. Like, I mean, he's even got the slight reach advantage, and we know he's quite technical. Like, he arguably beat Renat, as I said. Um, it's a decision where I thought it could have went either way, but I didn't pay too much mind to it. I was like, I don't really care that much. Like, I mean, now I'm really seeing that Renat isn't that special, right? Because he also lost to the Carlos Lille guy, but although he was on EPO, arguably, I mean, he was on something. He had spots all over him. But point being, Renat is a decent opposition who is just outside the top 15, and I do think that he is better than Elesiu Zaleski. So I would go with Nicholas Dalby by a 29-28 probably. And then we have Luana Pinheiro and Juliana Robertson. Now, what we saw in Luana Pinheiro's last two fights is proof that she got lucky with getting that split decision against Julian Robertson. We saw that she did not deserve that, but she got it anyway, and then she got pushed up the division where she really should not have, and then she fought Angela Hill, and I mean, yeah, it didn't look good. I actually thought that Luana was going to beat her because I thought that, hey, I mean, she's a veteran, she's 39. I'm referring to Angela Hill. And too many fights, too many losses as well, like too much damage. I mean, in women's MMA, it's not as bad having that many fights. It's not as you probably aren't going to take as much damage in the long run, but it is a factor nonetheless. And yeah, I mean, even before then, it's like these two wins before Michelle Waterson Gomez, they're like nothing. I mean, 10-10, 5-3. Like Sam Hughes, okay, actually she's not that bad. She's like the prospect check. If you're a fraud, you're gonna lose to her. But I mean, 10-10 before then, and it was a disqualification. Like, come on. I mean, she got pushed up the rankings far too much, and now she's fighting someone who should be ranked above her, who is on a tear, who is actually a valid prospect, and is younger, like, by more than a year. I mean, 63-inch reach, 5'5". I mean, look at both of them in their fights against Michelle Waterson Gomez. You see, even though you could make the case that she won against Michelle Waterson Gomez, most people had Michelle Waterson Gomez winning that. I'm referring to Luana's fight against her. But then Julian Robertson Gomez, go Julian Robertson Gomez, Julian Robertson, if I can speak right. She had like a 30-26 performance, just total domination on the ground, and even arguably in the stand-up. And then even before that, I mean, she submitted Poliana Viena, like KO'd. Actually, I completely forgot about that. KO, like she's got some good wins. And then, of course, Tabitha Ricci, that one. Like, Tabitha Ricci's still decent, you know? There's no shame in that, in my opinion. And it was a one-off. Like, you can clearly tell, like, yeah, she got back to her winning ways. And she's probably going to get subbed, referring to Luana. I'd say... You know what? I'm going to go with a first-round sub. I think that she's not all that. Yeah, Julian Robertson. She's going to be the Savage, as her nickname would say. Oh, shoot. Wrong pick. Now, here's an interesting one. Rein de Ritter versus Gerald Meerschaert. Now, I do not think that Meerschaert should be this much of an underdog. I think this is crazy because he's proven time and time again, aside from the Hamzat fight, mind you, that he is a valid, and aside from the Joe Pyfer fight, and aside from arguably the Andre Petrosky fight, but otherwise he's shown time and time again that he is a very good underdog pick. However, I just can't pick him. He's getting up there in age. He is probably not in his prime. I mean, he's coming off of some good wins, but then Rein de Ritter has fought one of the best fighters ONE FC had to offer, and he was still doing okay. He was hanging in there with some knees to the body, and he was making it to the fourth round. I'm of course referring to Frick. I can't say it off the top of my head. Anatoly Malakin. I got the names backwards, but yeah, and then his opposition that he's faced otherwise have been great. I mean, these records are really good as well. Although I'm not the biggest ONE FC fan, I do see that they are the second best skill wise. You can make the case for PFL with Ngannou in it that it's the second best at this point, but for heavyweight, I wouldn't say that for I wouldn't say that for this ONE FC's all the other weight classes. And Gerald Meerschaert is kind of slow. Rein de Ritter is dangerous on the ground, and he does have good knees. He does have good body punches and good. He just has good body attacks, where Gerald Meerschaert can get hurt by those kinds of attacks. You saw in his last fight even against Edmund Shabazian. Edmund Shabazian, he's mostly known for being a headhunter, and he was able to mix it in and get the body shots. Now, granted, he didn't find the finish because his fight IQ is quite mediocre. But, I mean, even if he doesn't, Rein de Ritter doesn't get the sub, Gerald Meerschaert has lost by a split against Andre Petrosky, and I don't really think that Petrosky's that good. He has a couple wins now, coming off of his loss against, what was it? The guy who does the backflips. Who fought Anthony Hernandez? Michelle Pereira. That's right, Michelle Pereira. Coming off of that, yeah, he has a few good wins, Petrosky, but I think Ranger Ritter's going to get this. Maybe a second round sub. I mean, the Ritter is going to get this. Yeah. I don't know what to expect, though, because, I mean, Mearshart is a very good underdog. I am surprised it's only 20% picking Mearshart, because even though, yes, the Ritter should be the favorite, moderate favorite, I don't know about that. Like, the Ritter has never been subbed, yes, but Gerald Mearshart can win by decision. I can totally see that. Moving swiftly on to Ricky Tercios versus Brennan Chopauge. All right. Now Vinicius Oliveira definitely had a nasty knee finish on Brennan Chopauge, but before then he was out grappled for a decent portion of it. It was a competitive fight for sure, 100%. But we go back and you actually watch the tape. I'd say that Brendo was slightly winning the exchanges overall. And, he has some decent records on the regionals. And, even when he's losing on the regionals, it's a split. Vinicius Oliveira just won against, what was it? Ricky Simone. Like, he's proven. And it was a pretty clear 30-27 in my eyes. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think he should be as much of a favorite as he is. I know on this over here in Tapology it doesn't say, but he is a moderate favorite on other websites. So yeah, I mean, even though maybe Ricky Tercios can get this done, he did put up some fair opposition against Raul Rosas, and he did take Ayman Zahabi to a decision. I do think that Sopauge is more potential to become a future prospect as well as, I mean, as long as his chin isn't gone. So I'm going to go with a decision here. Quite a few decisions on this card, but decent amount of submissions as well. And we're getting close to the end here. We have Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Denise Gomez. Now, seeing these odds, I've seen them on another website as well. I've even seen them on the UFC website. This is insane to me. I do think that Denise probably should be the favorite, but I think it's absurd that we're making her a 430 favorite, heavy. Like, I don't get it. We're talking a split. I mean, sure, 10-0. Eduarda Moara, sure. 10-0. Good win. Yasmin Zugueri, 10-0. But then again, she got fraud checked. So, I mean, really? Bruno Brazil, I mean, she's okay. So, then Loma Lumbu, these names, I'm not accustomed to these names. And then Angela Hill. I think Karolina Kowalkiewicz is better, honestly. I think this is a sick underdog. And I think that against Yasmin Lucindo, I mean, she was just like outpointed. It wasn't like a complete shutout domination in my eyes. I know Diana Belbita isn't great, but she had a lot of decent wins strung together here. Like, I think the experience for Karolina Kowalkiewicz is going to play a factor here. And I think that she has the height and having the height and reach advantage as well as the huge experience advantage, and knowing that she is good at 3 rounds cardio decisions is going to play a factor. I really do. Now, Denise Gomez should be the favorite in my eyes because, I'm sort of picking Karolina, assuming that she is not washed up. But if she is, then yeah, Denise should clearly win 30-27, or maybe a late TKO or something, or maybe even a sub, maybe even a late sub. But, I mean, Denise's opponents, the 10-0s, look pretty. Her records against like the opponents that she's fought, the records look nice on paper, but I think that Carolina's more proven. So another decision for Kovalevich, I think. And moving on. This is a tough one. I've thought about this quite a bit. Cody Garbrandt versus Miles Johns. Now, Miles Johns has been looking great, um, but against people who can't deal with an overhand. We're talking about Cody Gibson. We're talking about Douglas Da Silva Andrade. Is that it? Yeah, I mean, Douglas Da Silva Andrade is like 39. I mean, yeah, he had a nice record going into that, but people were just picking him pretty much based on that because he had a nice record. And Miles Johns beat a guy who was pretty much a punching bag. Now, I know Cody Gibson has been looking better. He got 2 wins now, back to back, but man, Cody Gibson just looks so trash in the Miles Johns fight. I don't know what that was about. And then I know that Cody Garbrandt has been losing, but we go to his side here, and he's fighting the best of the best. I know, okay. His wins aren't great. I get it. Brian Kelleher, and then Trevin Jones. I get it. But Kai Kara France, Rob Font, Davison Figueiredo, like, these are top 10 bantamweights. And flyweight. Top 5 flyweight. Like, come on. We're shaming him for having no chin. People saying no chin instead of no love Garbrandt. I mean, it's kind of accurate. He doesn't have a great chin. And if he does get landed on with one of these big overhands, he could definitely get knocked out. But, I mean, I don't think he has the worst chin. I think he's actually withstood quite a bit from Kai Kara France and others. I think he just gets too reckless sometimes. He sees the finish, he gets blood hungry, and then he gets too wild. I think he could win a decision or a knockout here. It's really tough to say. I think Miles Johns will probably gas in the third round because although he looked, don't get me wrong, he looked good in every round against Douglas Da Silva Andrade. In the last fight, I don't know. Maybe they were just both off in that fight. But in his fight before that against Cody Gibson, they just both looked trash, and Miles Johns looked like he was begging to get to the end of the bell. He was begging to get to the end of the fight. He was like in the end of the third round, he was like breathing heavy. He was like clinching in the third round, trying to just. He kept throwing the same overhand. It was super predictable, but Cody Gibson just couldn't see it. So I understand he's had some good fights. He's done better. He's improving. He's only 30. I get it. But Cody Garbrandt's still 38. He beat Dominic Cruz, which is one of the best bantamweights. Not the best in my eyes, but I mean, I think the T-Rex arms of Cody are too fast, and I think that in the third round he'll still have the stamina to knock out Miles Johns. Moving on, Carlos Prates. Now, Carlos Prates is going to win. It just depends on what round will he win. Okay? I think a lot of people are going to pick the first or the second round. I think the first is too premature. I think most people picking the first round aren't aware. They haven't seen all of Carlos Prates' fights because he is a little bit of a slow starter sometimes, especially against Trevin Giles. I don't understand what happened to Trevin Giles. I gotta say, I just gotta rant a little bit here. Trevin Giles. Wow, his schedule though. Carlos Prates. Wow, 8 months, three fights in 8 months, and he's gonna be fighting in 4 days. Wow, this schedule. Back to what I was saying here though. Trevin Giles was piecing up Carlos Prates. I understand it was a debut. I get it, and it was still competitive, sure. But before he got KO'd, Trevin Giles was arguably winning that, and now he's just resorting to losing a decision where if he just tried, he could probably win against Mike Malott. I don't get it. What happens to some of these fighters? Do they just like not want to get KO'd or something? Do they just have a bad chin and then just realize, oh, if this goes, then it could be bad for my brain. I don't know. But I mean, KO. This was decision against Ian, but even still, he took a lot of damage there. Leg kicks are also going to be an issue, and Carlos Prates does have some leg kicks. He does have some knees as well. Like the leg kicks were an issue against Ian Gary, so And then sub like against Gilbert Burns, pretty much every way you could think of, Neil Magny can lose, and of course, the latest way was through a KO, more like a TKO, but still. I mean, he got ground and pounded, and he was he was back mounted, full controlled by Michael Morales. Almost got that wrong there. I almost said Vinicius Morales. Um, though they do actually kind of have similar styles, but that's besides the point. Um, I mean, sure, he has the length, but this isn't like a Jeff Neal where he's just a boxer. No, he has Muay Thai literally tatted on his chest. Like, I mean, the dude has versatility. He's not like Neil Magny where he's just gonna, I mean, Jeff Neal, where he's just going to resort to losing a decision because he can't get on the inside. He's going to resort to knees if he has to. In Carlos Prates, he's going to resort to leg kicks. He's going to resort to all sorts of kicks. The body, the head. He's probably going to stab the body with his teep kicks. His left hand is lethal, and he's very calm, very patient. It just depends on what round, and honestly, I'm quite indecisive. I think that Neil Magny is definitely going to survive the first round. Will he survive the second? That's the question. I don't think so. I know that he's in Carlos Prates. He's had quite a few second round KOs, and I know that most people are probably picking that either a first or a second. But I feel like I'm very good at predicting Carlos Prates fights. Now, granted, I picked Charles Radke, but that was because he was coming off of a very good win, and I thought his hands were looking crisp going into that fight. But the other fights of Prates, I picked perfectly. I picked, I believe the other two were second round against Giles and Leech, the Leech, Jing Liang. And those were both second round, I think, and I picked those perfectly. So, yeah, I think he's a very good second round fighter. He just finds his timing. He's kind of like Peter Yan a little bit, I think. He's very calm. He has a bit of a Muay Thai style. He shells up decently to avoid punishment. He's very good at standing and banging. And yeah, I think that he's a dangerous prospect to look out for. The welterweight division's looking very exciting lately with all the new prospects. So yeah, that's my full card predictions for UFC Apex Vegas 100. Perfectly mid, as they all are. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, comment. Please subscribe. Let me know what you think. Am I right? Am I wrong?